So, you're a Department of Defense contractor. You already know that cybersecurity is a huge deal, but what you might not realize is just how critical the so-called basic requirements of CMMC Level 1 are. Seriously, they can make or break your ability to win contracts. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on those 17 practices and give you a super clear roadmap for getting compliant. All right, let's jump right in.
And let's be totally clear about what's at stake here. This isn't just about having good IT policies. This is about whether you can even compete for the work. We're talking about the survival of your business in the defense industry. You fail just one of these foundational practices, and you could be completely out of the running.
So how do you make sure that doesn't happen? Well, it all starts with understanding the fundamentals. Let's break down what Level 1 is all about, because once you get the what and the why, figuring out the how becomes a whole lot easier.
At its heart, CMMC Level 1 is all about protecting one thing: Federal Contract Information, or FCI. So what is that? Basically, it's any info related to your contract that isn't meant for the public. Think about project emails, delivery schedules, draft documents. It's the everyday data that, if it got into the wrong hands, could spill the beans on sensitive government work.
And to protect that FCI, CMMC lays out these 17 specific practices. Now, that number, 17, didn't just come out of thin air. It's actually based on a government rule, the FAR clause, that's been around for years. But here's the big change with CMMC. It's not enough to just say you're doing these things anymore. Now, you have to formally assess your setup and swear that you're doing it right.
The whole idea behind these 17 practices is what we call foundational hygiene. Look, this isn't about defending against some super sophisticated cyber attack from another country. It's about locking your digital doors and windows. It's the essential, common-sense security that, honestly, every business should be doing anyway.
And let's just bust a few myths right now. Level 1 is absolutely not some paperwork exercise you do once. You can't just check a bunch of boxes and be done with it. These are living, breathing controls that you have to maintain all the time. It's about having a real, ongoing security posture, not just a policy document collecting dust on a shelf.
Okay, so you're looking at this list of 17 requirements and maybe feeling a little overwhelmed. How do you even begin to tackle it? Well, the trick is to stop thinking about it as a random list and start seeing the big picture.
We're going to group all 17 practices into 5 simple, logical areas. Seriously, don't try to memorize 17 different things. If you just get the main goal of these 5 core ideas, all the individual practices will just click into place. Trust me, it's the best way to manage this. First up is access control. The easiest way to think about this is like having a digital bouncer for your systems. Its only job is to make sure that only the right people using trusted computers can get in. This is your first line of defense. And a common mistake here, people focus on passwords but totally forget about physical access. An unlocked server room can make all your fancy digital security worthless.
Now, once your bouncer lets someone in, you gotta check their ID. That's what identification and authentication is all about. It just means 2 things. Everyone gets their own unique login, no sharing accounts, and they have to prove who they are, usually with a password. Why? It's all about accountability. If something bad happens, you need to be able to trace it back to a specific person.
Group number 3 is media protection. This covers securing your data wherever it physically exists. We're talking USB drives, external hard drives, backup tapes, even that old laptop you're about to recycle. The risk here is that your FCI could literally just walk right out the door. So you need clear rules for who can use this stuff and, just as important, how you properly wipe or destroy it when you're done.
Next, we have system and communications protection. Think of this as putting a guard at the on-ramps and off-ramps of your company's data highway. This is where you use things like firewalls to control the flow of information. The whole point is to keep FCI from getting exposed while it's traveling between your network and the big, wide internet. And our final group, system and information integrity. This is all about keeping your systems healthy and trustworthy. It really boils down to 2 main things: having up-to-date antivirus software to find off malware, and having a process to find and fix security holes quickly. You know, an unpatched computer is basically a welcome mat for hackers. And that's it. That's the whole framework. Access control, identification and authentication, media protection, communications protection, and information integrity. Those 5 pillars cover every single one of the 17 practices. If you can get your head around these 5 goals, you're already halfway there.
So, let's say you know the rules and you've put everything in place. Now what? How do you actually prove to the DoD that you're compliant? Let's walk through exactly how that works. This is the big question everyone asks, and for Level 1, the news is actually pretty good. You do not need to hire some expensive third-party auditor to come in and check your work. The whole process is designed for you to handle it yourself. So here's how it works. It's an annual self-assessment. First, your own team does a review, checking how you stack up against all 17 practices. Second, a senior executive at your company has to formally sign off, basically attesting that the results are true and accurate. And third, and this is key, you have to keep the evidence ready to prove it. Things like logs, screenshots, and written policies that back up your claim.
Now, I have to give you a really important warning here. Just because it's a self-assessment does not mean the stakes are low. If you make a false affirmation, whether you do it on purpose or just through carelessness, you could face huge penalties under the False Claims Act. We're talking massive fines or even getting banned from government contracting altogether. So being honest and accurate here is absolutely non-negotiable.
All right, we have covered a ton of ground. The what, the why, and the how of CMMC Level 1. So, what should you be doing right now? What are your immediate next steps?
Getting these controls in place correctly is more than an IT project. You really have to understand how these rules apply to your specific business. Now, if you need a hand, there are resources out there, from free guides provided by the government to specialized firms like QuantumShieldIT that can help you through the process and make sure your self-assessment is both accurate and defensible.
So there you have it. You now have a solid grasp of the 17 practices that are the absolute foundation of cybersecurity for the DoD. This is your starting line. But remember, this is just the beginning. The next level up involves much more sensitive information and, you guessed it, much higher stakes. So the real question is, now that you get Level 1, are you ready for Level 2?